I think Solana has a bunch of very cool things that happen on it because of the tech, but it's very hard to build on. If you have Solana, but an EVM environment, so instead of 5% of the developers in crypto can build on this cool platform where you can do new things, now 95% of people in crypto can build on it. There's just going to be almost 20 times the amount of experimentation, trial and error. Bringing the platform to a language that everybody knows how to build on and use in itself is really important. And take the thing that's already really good and just open it up so everyone can use it.
Well, yeah, thanks for joining. I was gonna start off by asking you, like, if you were making a cycle montage video, which I've really appreciated those over the years. Like, what scene are we at right now and what's left? But you posted today, we're kind of in like a red light, green light situation. So maybe if you could expand on that a bit in terms of what you're seeing like the last couple of weeks in the markets.
Yeah, I would say on the video montage side first, I love making them. Like, it's honestly probably my favorite thing to do in crypto. Right now, we're gearing up for the Monad testnet launch, which is like pretty time intensive. I got to be on top of a lot of things, so don't have as much time to do the main video side. But yeah, hopefully post launch, can get back on that. And yeah, so the red light, green light post, I was mostly, so DeepSeek happened this past weekend, and it turned out to be like important, but nothing too crazy. But the market wiped like $600 billion off of NVIDIA stock. Like, everyone freaked out, everything sold off, Bitcoin included, and then came back. And I was having a conversation with a friend that kind of sparked the idea, but it seems like everyone is generally trudging towards this, like 4 years from now, everything will be way higher. We'll have AGI, the markets will be crazy. And like, you want exposure to that, but there's also a lot of unpredictability that comes with it. And so everyone's like, when it's green light, everyone's long walking through it. But then at like the smallest change in market sentiment or an announcement, it just has the potential to just wipe everyone out. So it's like everyone is trying to buy as much as they ever have, but they're also more skittish than ever. And like, I think this probably continues and gets more and more exaggerated as we keep moving forward too. But like, I don't know, also just Trump involved, like, you never know what this guy's gonna do. He is he's a wild card. And so if he were to do anything crazy like that, could either spook the markets or hit it to the other side. But yeah, I don't know, in general, I'm very optimistic, but I think you see kind of like sharp fall offs with gradual increase.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. It's also in reference to what's the TV series called again?
The Squid Games?
The Squid Games. Yeah, there's like this one crazy scene where, I mean, I guess it's basically like the Mr. Beast games, but with real life consequences. Like, you can die in that game. So I think that would resonate with a lot of people. And yeah, I'm sure you probably would have made like a quick video out of it if you had more time. But I know things are busy over in the Monad world. So let's talk about that. This is kind of episode 2 of a Meet Monad series that I wanted to do. So spoke with Evan Tong, who's on the ecosystem side there, who's been a friend for a while. We both started out in the consulting world. So him at McKinsey, me at BCG. So we had a lot of kind of like shared background and shared experience. And he's really enjoyed working at Monad. And we talked a lot about his role there and building on ecosystem and all of that stuff. I understand you're the head of growth at Monad. So maybe talk to me a bit about, your role there and what you're focused on day to day, week to week, where you guys are at these days in terms of Testnet.
Yeah. So yeah, head of growth. It's a title that I chose because I kind of like it doesn't really mean much to someone, right? You're like head of growth. You're like, okay, well, what do you do?
Let's grow.
And yeah, exactly. And I actually kind of like that aspect of it. And it's been fairly accurate. So I would say I've been working with Monad for about 2 years. And my role probably every 6 months has changed pretty drastically. And so to oversimplify and give buckets to it, I would say like the first 6 months was working hard on marketing and community, basically like turning Monad into a brand that people generally knew of and kind of knew what we were building. And that's the first thing we tackled, mostly because I think if you do that part well, it makes every other part of what you have to do easier, right? If everyone already
For
knows
sure.
what Monad is and they've heard of you and you're a recognizable brand, it's very easy to have ecosystem conversations with teams that you might want to deploy on Monad. It's much easier to raise venture funding, right? You don't have to explain what Monad is. People have heard about it and they generally know. Um, it's easier to recruit developers to come build in your ecosystem versus others, right? Like there's just a lot of positive consequences that come from doing that part. So very much decided to start there. Maybe one of my favorite times at Monad, honestly, was just like good tech and a dream to build a community.
Oh
So yeah,
yeah.
like that was a lot of the first 6 months. And then the next 6 months kind of transitioned into a little bit more strategy and doing the venture fundraise. And so before I joined Monad, I had been venture investing out of CMS Holdings, which is a Boston-based fund. And so I was doing a lot of actual investments in startups that were building in crypto. And so I, at least at that point, I was the only person on the team that had venture background. And like we knew we had to raise another round of venture funding. The team was going to have to grow a lot. We needed runway to get to mainnet. Um, and so I worked a lot on raising our angel round and Series A, sitting on the other side of the table of where I have been for the previous 3 years. And then the next 6 months were a lot of almost like ecosystem building, talking to a lot of developers who were building cool things, talking to them to see if it would be interesting to build on Monad, thinking about apps that maybe were only possible to build on Monad and couldn't exist elsewhere. So a lot of ecosystem focus. And then the most recent 6 months has mostly been around testnet launch. It's like we have launch coming up, a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of stakeholders, actually. Like it seems somewhat simple from the outside, right? You're like, all right, the product goes live and you tell people to use it. But there's a lot of things that kind of go into that, right? Like you need infrastructure to be up and live on the chain so then apps can deploy. Once apps deploy, you're like, well, you need something for the people to be able to do once they come on testnet. Internally, you need design and strategy around marketing, community. So there's a whole host of things that kind of need to get done going into launch. So yeah, that's been basically the last 6 months leading up to now. Yeah, and then post testnet launch will look a lot like continuing to work on testnet and managing how things are going there. And yeah, directly into mainnet. So mainnet strategy. I'm sure that there are even more stakeholders around mainnet launch. So working through that side of things. Yeah, that's generally I've worn a lot of hats for sure. That Monad.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's nice to have a role that you can kind of just do the things that are important or that you see as important versus having like, specific to-dos every day. But I think you probably kind of earned that, right? Like you were a known person in crypto before going to join Monad. You'd done a bunch of venture investing, had a great reputation in the space. I'm curious what convinced you to join Monad specifically, right? Because I think you probably could have gone a lot of different places, done a lot of different things. What was it about Monad that was like, I got to go do this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the truth is, I honestly never thought I was going to leave CMS. I went like directly out of college to work at CMS. I was always like very interested in emerging tech, which I studied physics, so it was kind of on the quantum computing side. I was very interested in crypto and what blockchains could unlock, and also on the AI front. Um, I had like a pretty early existential crisis around AI, and I'm like, all right, this is what I think is going to happen. And I just was very interested in like startups forming in those spaces and venture funding. And so like initially when I was still in college, um, my plan was to basically try to join a startup, cut my teeth in that industry, and hopefully eventually get to the venture side. Um,
Mm.
I was still in college when I got an internship at CMS, which was doing it's CMS actively traded a hedge fund and venture fund. And so I kind of like skipped all the things I wanted to do and like just went straight to venture. And so I
Yeah.
honestly couldn't believe how lucky I was. I'm like, I'm in the industry I want to be in. I'm doing the job I want to do. Um, the company was like 15 people who all had a ton of experience, very smart, super fun. It was like the most fun job ever. Generous compensation. Dan, who runs it, is like the man. He's an awesome guy to learn from. So I was very happy. Like I had no plans to leave. Um, so when I saw Monad's um, initial pitch, so when Keone and James initially left Jump to start it, CMS was one of the first firms that they talked to. And I spent a long time researching it because like I could not understand it. It was there's a lot of tech around it. I had to like learn a bunch of things so that I could then go and learn what Mana was doing differently. Um, and in my head, I'm like, all right, this seems too good to be true, which in crypto, when that is the case, it's almost always fake. And so I thought, maybe there's a 10% chance this thing works. But if there's a 10% chance it works, it's as big as Solana at that point. And Solana to me was like the golden standard. I'm like, all right, from a
Yeah.
venture side, that actually makes sense. You probably make that bet. So I ended up angel investing. And then like 5 or 6 months later, I ended up catching up with Keone again and heard about where they were at on the tech side. And yeah, basically so the database is the hardest thing to build. And that was kind of the biggest question mark for a lot of people. They're like, can you actually do this? If you can't, it's honestly, Mana's not that special. But if you can crack that code, then it's that's the hardest thing. And from our conversation, it seemed like that had actually been solved, right? It still needed to be built, but like it was solved on paper. And so at that point, it was like, all right, there's a 50% chance. In my head, it went from 10. And I was like, now it's 50%. This is going to be an EVM Solana, potentially even bigger than that. And so being very happy at CMS, I very much didn't want to leave. But then the thought that kept running through my head was like, if this actually does turn into what I think it's going to, and I saw it this early and I didn't join or I wasn't a part of it, I'd be jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. Like I would be so upset. I'm like, I saw it. I was too scared. I didn't go for it. So I talked to Dan, my boss, the guy leading CMS. He's been in the space for a very long time. And he was like, dude, you're young. Say you go, try this out. It doesn't work. You can always come back. Like if you like this and you like the risk and, you think you'd be good at the job, then go for it. So at that point, I'm like, all right, I'm part of the crew, part of the ship, joined the team, and yeah, haven't looked back since.
It's awesome. Yeah, the regret minimization framework, right? Like, and also you were very much thinking about it as like a career move from a venture standpoint. Like, what are the kind of like, what is it? Magnitude times probability of the outcome, I guess, right? Like, it went from 10 to 50%, and the magnitude of the outcome was always pretty big, like if it worked. So that makes sense. You were thinking about it that way.
Yeah, it probably helped. I read, I can't remember if I read or listened to a podcast, but someone had like just been talking about Jeff Bezos's regret minimization framework. So it was like fresh in my head, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, all right, this is why the model exists. And yeah, I think that on the venture side, yeah, the EV I think is kind of what you're talking about. Like if there's 100x outcome and there's a 10% chance it hits, it's 10x EV. You're supposed to take that trade. It works a little. That's really good when you can make a lot of bets. When you can only make one bet, like it still works. But like if I told you, hey, there's a 1% chance that that this will work, but if it works, you invented AGI, right? Like you are the founder of OpenAI, but there's 99% chance like you waste your entire life, you never do anything. Like as a human, you probably don't take it, even though the math says you should. So
Yeah.
50% is like you can get comfortable with that.
100%. Yeah. I asked Evan the same thing, so I'm curious what you'll say here. I mean, if you had to describe Monad in your own words, like trying to not use like the copy on the website or like the commonly used terms in the crypto industry, say you were describing it to like a family member or something, how would you describe what you guys are building and why it's important?
Yeah, I think it's funny you mentioned the copy on the website or like the tweets, because I'm like, that was kind of what I was trying to do with those words.
Yeah,
I think
I'm gonna do it again.
I think the initial vision for it is still the same, honestly, 3 years later, which is pretty cool, and credit to Keone and James for having incredible foresight. The way I think about it is like there's 2 ways that Monad can be extremely impactful. The first one, which is very likely, all like close to certain in my head, is Solana's always been my favorite blockchain. Solana is really good. I think Solana has a bunch of very cool things that happen on it because of the tech, but it's very hard to build on. And so if you have Solana, but an EVM environment, so instead of 5% of the developers in crypto can build on this cool platform where you can do new things, now 95% of people in crypto can build on it. There's just going to be, almost 20 times the amount of experimentation, trial and error. Like bringing the platform to a language that everybody knows how to build on and use in itself is really important, and you probably get some really cool outcomes with it. If I was going to describe that point to my mom, I would be like, imagine if you had iPhones and Androids, but iPhones were like 100 times worse than they are right now, but everyone still used them. So Androids are like way, way better phones, but just like no one can really use it or build things for it. It's like, we're going to make the iPhone 100 times better so everyone can use it and build on it, but it has mass impact. Maybe I hope that analogy holds up to scrutiny.
Yeah, well, like the things that people are already using, whether it's devices or whether it's programming languages, are like what most people could use to build an app or whatever else. But say like whatever, that website's slow for some reason, super slow, and so no one really wants to build there. But if you can make it fast, then you just appeal to like a much wider audience of potential app builders or anything else.
Yeah, and then the other side of it, there's kind of this transitional piece, which then leads into the other side of it. So that's one, right? Take the thing that's already really good and just open it up so everyone can use it. And then I also think the use cases for crypto gradually get unlocked as scaling gets better. And so, for example, Bitcoin is the least scalable. It's not even Turing complete. It basically just sits there as a rock and it's just Bitcoin. Right? Like some people are trying to do stuff on it, but like that's Bitcoin's role. Ethereum, you could build things. It was expensive, but like that was the first time NFTs could really exist, right? There was money on Ethereum, things to buy, like this generally new use case. So it kind of unlocked that. It unlocked swapping. It unlocked a lot of things. And then you have Solana come into the stage. And so like if you think about all the meme coin trading and like the trenches, quote unquote, on Solana, that's very much enabled because of the scale. Right. So you go from Bitcoin doing nothing to like Ethereum, more scalable, Turing complete. You can have DeFi and NFTs and things. And then you go to Solana. People eventually figure out what to do with the extra scale. And like right now, that's the killer use case. And so I think there's another level to that, right? If you like 10x Solana performance, you go from the trenches to like, there are just new things that you can do. And to kind of cap that off, the analogy I would give to my mom would be like, if you think about using the internet in 2002, you have like web pages and email, and everyone has like a 50 kilobit per second internet connection speed. When you 1000x that and you go to 50 megabit per second. You have things like YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and like all of the, like for the vast majority of things that the internet are used for today, like you needed fast internet and then those things could be built. And then those are the things that everyone uses. And so I think there are these massive application unlocks, which are very hard to predict, right? Entrepreneurs need to go and build them, but it is actually a byproduct. It's a downstream consequence of the underlying scaling of the system. So that's the other side, right? Like I think there's going to be a lot of things that are newly feasible because of Monad. Again, hard to predict, but I firmly believe that there are use cases.
For sure. And maybe that's why people have been saying like, oh, this cycle's cooked because there's so many tokens launched and all those tokens are taking away attention and like diluting the kind of financial capital that would come into the space. So it's not pumping like their bags, it's pumping these new bags potentially. But if you think about like the internet and the evolution of that, these days it's extremely easy to like launch a website, for instance, and there's like probably trillions of websites and no one complains like, oh, there's another website. You know what I mean? Like it's just like a kind of commonly known fact. And so it feels like this cycle is crypto's like coming to mainstream moment where like blockchains like Solana and hopefully Monad soon that are really, really fast and really, really cheap allow for that level of just like relentless innovation. And we almost like need to get used to it. The people that have been here for a few cycles need to get used to like new dApps launching every day, new tokens, all of that stuff.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly right. And the other side of it is, I think, like if you take the internet analogy, it sounds really good on paper, right? You're like, oh, of course that's how it's going to go. That's how the internet went, and crypto's doing the same thing. But it's not a foregone conclusion, right? Like there is a world where scaling happens and there like aren't the apps that we think are going to exist and have mainstream product market fit. Like it's not guaranteed that you just make it more scalable and then things exist. But I'm pretty confident that they will. Like I already have like 2 or 3 that I think just happen once you have a free open market and extremely low gas fees, extremely abundant block space, etc.
Your Twitter has definitely been super pivotal, I would say, in building your crypto career. Did you start off with a specific kind of strategy or plan to grow on Twitter? Or was it kind of just like you were engaging there and you started to get a following and then it kind of all snowballed from there?
Yeah. Not pre-planned. I had been on crypto Twitter since around 2017. Like that's kind of how I learned a lot of the thing. Like I initially got into crypto summer 2017 and then started following more and more crypto accounts and then there's no going back. So I was like versed in kind of the industry and the culture. When I joined CMS, Dan, the boss there, his Twitter's at CMS Holdings. Pretty funny account to check out. He kind of reminded me of like a Dave Portnoy type character. If you know Dave Portnoy, where like a lot of people are very buttoned up in the way that they do business and all that, and he would just kind of like he's trading his own money, so he's like flying by the seat of his pants, saying whatever he wants, making trades that he thinks are good. And he was CMS Holdings. And so I made the Portnoy connection. And I'm like, oh, well, there's Barstool Big Cat or Barstool KFC. Like there's a whole host of people that kind of contribute to the Barstool brand. And so he was CMS Holdings. I was a legitimate intern at that point. And so I basically pinged him and was like, hey, you think this is okay if I were to create like CMS intern? And he was like, yeah, go for it. Don't say anything politically charged or anything crazy, but like, yeah. Good, go for it. And so that like, I don't know, it speaks about the culture there, right? Like most people would not allow some kid that had been working for him for 2 months to like start representing the company he started. But he had a lot of trust and like I took that to heart and so tried to put out good content. I was like learning a ton at that point and taking notes. So I just started like posting those notes on Twitter. And then that kind of created this like intern note meta. Like my handle was intern and I was posting notes, like it kind of fit together. And then they also being pretty ahead of the curve. They were like, memes are so important in crypto. And this was like this is 2020. This is not kind of an accepted part. Now we think about them as like almost synonymous, but it was not that accepted at that point. But I'm like, they're 100% right. And the team was like, everyone there was like 28 to 34, like ex hedge fund traders, Wall Street backgrounds. I was like, these guys are so smart. They're like, we should hire a full-time meme guy. And at that point, I'm 22. I'm an intern at the company. So I'm like, all right, I'm the Zoomer. I can try my hand at it. And so, yeah, basically was just posting notes and memes for a while. But yeah, I would say I didn't know it at the time, but it was probably the number one, like learning how venture works and then also doing the Twitter side was like, those were the most important kind of crucial things that have helped my career for sure. I would recommend to anyone who is like trying to grow in crypto and work in the space, like your Twitter can become your resume and it can open a lot of doors for you that it's very, it just creates a lot of opportunity. And it forces you to learn, like learning in public, kind of sharpens your sword every time you post something. So yeah, I think it's been honestly like crucial I probably wouldn't have got the job at Monad if I hadn't been posting on Twitter. Like it almost works as a crypto resume to some extent.
Definitely. I mean, it's been super pivotal for me too. And like, it is actually for crypto native jobs and hiring, like I would look at someone's Twitter before I look at their resume, because you can see who follows them. You can see like what they tweet, what they're thinking about, what kind of like interactions they get. How would you say Twitter and memes and like your kind of expertise or experience with them have influenced your strategy for growth at Monad, especially versus like how other blockchains would do it?
A ton on it, like honestly, that as so 2022 when I was talking to Keone, like there wasn't a Twitter, Discord hadn't been created yet, like it wasn't a thing. And so I was talking to at that point, like L1s or projects in crypto, like they would post, this is what my project does, and these are the features, and like this is why it's cool. It's like what you would expect a Twitter for a company to look like. And I just thought that there was kind of massive untapped potential for like, or here, I'll use another analogy. So like crypto Twitter is kind of like this skate park, right? And everyone somewhat knows each other and like some people have influence in there, but like there's a style to it. And then the way L1s and other projects were marketing themselves were like, I'll put a billboard next to the skate park and hopefully they notice me. Or I'll try to get an ambassador who's at the skate park and maybe they can tell other people about what I'm doing. And I just thought that you could actually just like become a character, like just like go to the skate park and hang out with them. And so like a lot of the early stuff we were doing was just like posting memes, like commenting on hot posts with like, funny takes and just being part of crypto Twitter. And that was really well received. Like, I think that was honestly the secret ingredient early on to like getting people to notice Monad, because now it's almost normalized. Like, I think that strategy basically got copied and iterated on, and like people know that that's probably what you do now. But at that point, it was such a stark contrast to what anyone else had been doing, that it stood out from the crowd and kind of made people notice Monad. And then like once they notice you, then maybe they learn on their own what you're doing. So yeah, I think that like the crypto Twitter side was crucial.
That's a fantastic analogy, by the way. I haven't heard that one before at all, or anything close to it. And I think it's just like a meta, like game changing thing to do, to like go from advertising on a billboard outside the skate park to becoming like one of the main characters there, or like, I guess like hiring one of the main characters there to like represent you at the skate park. Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I think of I grew up skiing, so this probably won't land with a lot of people. But like ski brand,
I like skiing.
Sweet. All right, so like there's a culture to like park skiing and people who do like freestyle, like X Games type stuff. And they basically would take like race skis and like change them themselves to go and use them in competitions. And then Armada was like, we're gonna make skis directly for a park. Like we're gonna own this part of the industry, and then everyone started using those skis. So yeah, I think like fitting your content to your audience is really important. And so I'd seen that for a long time. I'm like, someone is going to do this and it's going to work really well. So when I talked to Mon, I'm like, this is actually crazy tech. Let's take like that marketing community approach and add it on top. That was, yeah, really fun.
What are a few of your favorite ecosystem projects within Monad, or just projects you think are building cool stuff, specifically like, I guess, applications, consumer crypto, AI, anything that you're really intrigued with?
Yeah. I'll shout out a few. I'll shout out Kuru first. They're a central limit order book building on Monad. Monad is like, it's basically custom built to be able to support this application. So essential order book will be at the heart of a lot of things that are going on. But yeah, they hired my friends KV and Cozy, who have been awesome on the growth team there. Like they cook. Like they've been building on Monad for a year and a half now. Like I love what they're doing. I'm very excited for them to launch. Kizzy's another one. They're like a social prediction market. So think about like Polymarket, but for anything Twitter or YouTube, or like, will Mr. Beast's next video get 50 million plays in the first 24 hours? Will Keone gain 120 followers in the next 24 hours? Kind of like taking a social media approach to prediction markets. There's a few that I can't say yet because they're not publicly announced. But I'm really excited about day one of Testnet. Everyone will see what those are. There's a bunch of teams that are currently building that I think are interesting that are also coming over for Testnet, which should be cool. Who else? We have like 42, who's doing AI agent stuff directly built into Monad. Rare Bet Sports is basically building like daily fantasy into so like sports betting. Also Lever Bet. They have, if their product works how I think it should, it's going to, I don't know, like upend sports betting in my opinion. There's a lot. I think I'm very pumped about the people who've been ride or die for a while.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm excited to see Testnet come out in all those apps you can't talk about now, be able to launch as well. But I think probably the main thing that's stood out to me as like an outsider kind of following Monad's journey is just the crazy, I mean, both large and very engaged community that you guys have been able to cultivate, even like pre-DevNet, pre-Testnet. We're at pre-Testnet right now. So you talked a bit about like, not being corporate and uptight from the foundation account, for instance. I mean, you said your first 6 months were really focused on like marketing and community, but like, how did you guys actually go about that? Was it in-person events? Was it like AMAs and Twitter Spaces? Was it, what was it from your opinion that allowed you guys to do that?
Yeah, I think so. Similar to on the marketing side, like we talked about, like when I was at CMS, I saw these projects trying to market their product, and I'm like, there are so many better ways to do this than what people are currently doing. I think the same thing applied to community and honestly still applies today. Like marketing, people have kind of figured out what to do. I think community still, people don't really do the right thing. But there was a lot of like questing or click these 7 buttons and then you get like 2 USDC. And like they figured that was community building, like botting their followers. And there wasn't a lot of like actual organic attempts to build a community of like people that care about something. And so this was, again, a decision made early on that like, it's going to take longer to form a community if we kind of do this slow and steady version. But if it happens, and hopefully it does, the community that forms is going to be way stronger because it's real people that care about the mission. They're having fun. Like it's kind of where they hang out on the internet is the Monad community. And so that was like the overall theme of it. There's a lot of different things you can do to kind of build that trust with them. But like any announcement that we had like this core community knew first. Like we would tell them a day in advance. We're like, don't leak anything. If you leak it, you're dead to us. You're kicked out of the group. Like this is serious. But like we want to keep giving you guys updates before anyone else, because like that's what community means to us. So we did
It's like an insider. Yeah.
right. So we would,
in a good way.
yeah, like we would do that. It's the same way like if you were gonna make a big announcement on Twitter, but like you tell your friends first. Like that's really what it was.
Yeah.
Just putting a lot of effort. Like I'd say we've put like 5 times the amount of effort into community than anyone else, which takes a number of different forms, but like actually having multiple team members present at all times, hanging out with the community, like forming relationships with them. Like you kind of need a facilitator, especially early on, that will help do that. And so when we had like 3 or 4 and the chat was never quiet and there was always some joke going on, like that was really important. Never doing like, a lot of people will do kind of points systems that you can easily farm metrics in like a Discord. Ours was all like handpicked. If someone's doing really well and like we're noticing that, then we will promote them to like a higher status role. But there's no like, oh, I sent 1,000 messages in the last 2 weeks. Like that means I get a point upgrade.
Yeah.
So a lot of things that they take longer to do, but the end result ends up being really powerful. Like that's really been part of it. And then now it's taken a life of its own, right? Like the community's forming their own meetups with like hundreds of people. That like Korea, for example, recently held like a 700 person meetup where it's just the Monad community hanging out with each other. Like these are actually their friends in real life, and Monad is just kind of at the center of it. So yeah, that aspect, like I'm excited to see what the next steps of that are, because I think like at this point it kind of becomes uncharted territory. But like there's something, right? Like something is going to happen. Like they're gonna make it bigger than what it currently is. So but yeah, it's at the heart of really everything we've looked to do so far.
Definitely. No, makes a ton of sense. What are your goals for growth at Monad, or the growth functions goals for 2025? Like what are you looking forward to? What do you want to get accomplished this year?
I think growth for the next year is much more tied to product than it has been for the last 2 years. It's really been social layer. Like even getting developers to come build in the ecosystem, like that's kind of social layer type stuff. Testnet launch is very like product and go-to-market based. I think mainnet launch is going to be even more of that, right? Like how do we make mainnet as big and powerful as possible? So it's a lot more product focused. Launching Testnet's kind of like it's our Super Bowl right now. It's the biggest thing that Monad has done to date. But it's kind of a warm up for mainnet launch. So those are really the only 2 things on my mind that I constantly think about all the time. Like make sure Testnet goes well, do things that no one else has ever done before. And then, maintain the mentality, do it into mainnet. And then post mainnet, it's really ecosystem growth, right? Once the tech is out there, that's, the platform exists. It's talking to builders, getting involved with teams that are doing cool things, and making sure, the skate park sees what they're doing if it's cool and they like it.
Yeah, that sequencing of things makes sense, right? Like before the tech's live, it's like community, social layer. Once the tech's live, it's really about product and making sure that the chain works and it's fast and cheap and everything else. And then after that, it's like, how do we get people to use it and make sure they stick around too, not just like launch and then go elsewhere. So that's awesome. Last question for you is from our friend Connor King. I saw you benched 315, maybe a couple of months ago, as like a personal goal of yours, which is some serious weight. So congrats on that. But he was asking what your supplement stack was, just like day to day for lifting, for health, any of that stuff.
Yeah, shout out Connor, great dude. So I'm a big proponent of creatine.
Same.
I think that
every day.
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. Che, so if you follow Bitcoin Panda or Che Guevlino, it's the same guy who runs both accounts, but like he basically promotes this like low neuroticism lifestyle, which like I identify with. I think he's smart and funny, but he pushes glycine, L-theanine, and magnesium magnesium glycinate as like the 3 that he takes. So I'll do glycine in the morning and then L-theanine and magnesium glycinate before bed. And then 1 milligram of melatonin to sleep. I think Connor probably has a much better stack than that. Mine is, I haven't thought as much about.
I don't know. I think that's solid. I think you always want to try to keep it very natural too. So I'm a big creatine proponent. L-theanine pairs very well with caffeine also, because it kind of kills any of the like anxious, jittery effects of caffeine, kind of calms you down some. And also it's like a natural nootropic that kind of focuses you. But, and then at times I've done magnesium, glycine, need to cycle back into those, but good to know, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I know we're at time here. If there's like a call to action about getting involved with Monad or following the Twitter, like what would you say to our listeners in terms of where you want to point them?
Yeah, I would say turn on notifications for the Twitter. By the time this is out, it'll either Testnet will be, I don't know when this releases, but either Testnet will be live or about to be. Turn on noties. Unless you're part of the core community, that's where everyone will know first how to go and access Testnet. So yeah, let's those would be my call to actions. Also follow Keone HD at KEONEHD. Founder Monad, the GOAT. He's the guy to follow for sure.
All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on. This was awesome.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Connor.